watch that develop.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, I want to do what I want to do. I'd like to talk kind of like my normal spiel at the beginning of the show, but
Okay.
I want to allow enough time. So I'd like to maybe do my big thing. It's all about contributions.
Here we go. I gotcha. We'll do it. You, and then right there. So welcome back, everyone. We're live on Facebook, so hi to everybody out there. Like us and follow us. We'll share the show a little bit later on. My next guest has not only become sort of a friend of mine as well, she's also my sponsor. I have with me Anna von Straussenburg. She is the owner of Anna von Straussenburg CPA. Welcome back to the show. I always like to start off with everybody, because we have new listeners all the time, that tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're going to want to talk about today.
Okay, thank you, Carol. I really love being on the show. Well, I kind of call myself a backdoor CPA because I started off in the teaching industry, and you know, teachers don't make much money, unfortunately, and I worked for a private school for a while for developmentally disabled, and it was just a tough job, and my husband said, I think you ought to go into business. I think a job in accounting would just fit you perfectly because you're good on computers, you're so good with numbers, you know, you balance our checkbook to the penny every month, and you do our family budget on the spreadsheet. Now keep in mind, this is back in the 90s, and the only spreadsheet available was Lotus 123, which if anybody's ever used it, it's not user-friendly. Anyway, so I, you know, went out and started hunting for jobs, and lo and behold, I got a job at an accounting firm as a receptionist. And I had taken a couple accounting courses, and I think I was taking one when I first started working there. And so after I'd worked there for a few years, I decided to go back to school and get serious and become a CPA. And so I made myself a goal that I would become a CPA by my 40th birthday. And I filled out the application paperwork the week of my 40th birthday. So I made
awesome?
it. Yeah, I went
cool?
back to school and, you know, took accounting at night while working at accounting in the CPA firm. So it was just the right fit for me. And so I'm really happy to have done that.
I want you to talk a little bit about you and how you work so hand in hand and why it's so important. You know, people think, first of all, a couple of things. First of all, people think that your CPA only contacts you once a year, maybe around April, you know, or just before. And everybody, that's totally different, wrong, because accounting is all year round. When you own a business, it truly is all year round. You do both business and personal, but you also love to work with businesses. It doesn't have to be a large business in any way. She loves complicated returns, but explain to them truly what makes you different than the other people out there.
Okay, what we do is I like to look at the books 3 times a year. The first time is usually midsummer. I'll look at the books through the end of July and get an idea where the client's trending, and so maybe I can make some basic recommendations, maybe correct some of their accounting errors, because it just happens. And then the biggest time I like to look at the books is in November all the way through the end of October. So we get 10 months, and then maybe by the time we look at them, maybe we get that November in there, and we can kind of get a feel for December, so I can get a good picture of what the client's tax liability is going to look like, if they make no specific changes. And so sometimes I can recommend some things for them to do. Maybe you need to fund your retirement plan or buy that new asset, or I had a client who every time he owed too much in taxes, he ran a business that did a lot of landscaping. They were buy a new truck because they ran their trucks into the ground, and so he always had to buy a new truck every year, and to the point he had a pretty good fleet. Anyway, but it gives us a planning opportunity, and then the next time, of course, is when we do the taxes, and I kind of like to see how close I came.
And she probably is pretty close, folks.
Yep.
Because you have a sharp pencil, and you are on, make them a part of what you do. That's what I think what makes you so different, is that you work hand in hand. They become a partner in your tax return, in their tax return.
And, you know, I just love it, you know, showing the clients how to look at their books, because a lot of people just don't look at everything. They look at the bank account balance. Well, your income is not just your bank account balance, because people have liabilities they spend on, and they take out, you know, money for themselves and what have you. And so I like to teach them, and then I like to teach them how to do their business income and expenses correctly. Some people make the bad mistake of running personal expenses through that, and I tell them, pay yourself a paycheck if you, depending on what kind of entity you are, or take a draw of a flat amount. Don't just pay your expenses out of the business. You know, don't treat it like your personal checking account. Just take a chunk of money. If you need to pay your bills for the month, take $5,000 out. You know, whatever it's going to take, but don't just pay your mortgage out of the business.
Now, you had said today that it's all about contributions.
Yeah, well, I want to focus on it when we come back.
So we're going to get, but we are going to talk about that. I want you to also talk about how, well, you know, you do both business and personal, and it doesn't have to be a large company when you work. You like small to medium size, and you do it all.
Yeah, I have worked with some startup companies and had the delight in watching them grow. And when I taught them about, well, you're not tracking your inventory quite right, because inventory cannot go negative. You can't have minus things. What was happening is the bookkeeper, when they sold a certain item, you know, went on something, and then when they bought the materials, it went in on a different item number, and they have to match up, because otherwise you're going to get some weird books. And so I remember talking to a client about that problem and getting them to fix it. And that client started off every year losing money, year after year after year. And once we kind of fixed the problems and he could look at the books, then all of a sudden he started making money. And the last few years he made over $1 million net income a year.
That's why you want to
he
call
sold
Anna.
his business for well over $12 million.
That's why you want to call Anna.
And that's where you want to be. And so, and I'll tell you, I get to know my clients, I get to know their families, I get to know all about them, because the more I know, the better I can help them.
Right, because you might just mention something and she'll say to you, well, you know, I didn't realize that you had children. Did you know that you can write the... So that's where she comes in.
Oh, I had a client that forgot to tell me that, you know, I see him sometimes, some of the individuals, I only see him a couple times a year, and in the meantime, they had a baby. And I didn't know it, because she wasn't showing when I saw her, and then when, you know, as she came in, then she goes, oh yeah, you know, our baby's about to turn 1 year old or something like that. And so I always try to get to know them, because then I find those things out.
She's also all about excellence and integrity in accounting, and when you call her, you're going to know why. The phone number is 480-964-4030. That's 480-964-4030. She does free consultations. She's rated with the Better Business Bureau. She works nationwide, and she also will do second opinions as well. We'll talk about that too later on. But you check them out on her website, which is Arizona CPAs with an S.com. What do you want to say before we go to a break?
Well, I want to say that about my integrity. I am all about that, and I am all about excellence. I believe in being ethical. I believe in taking, you know, tax deductions to the extent of the law, but I don't like to push the limit. You know, I'm not going to lie for somebody, and I can't lie to save my life, but I always make sure that I stand by my work, where the excellence comes by.
Excellence and integrity in accounting.
Yeah, because I stand by it. And
she guarantees her work and will pay the penalty if that is, but you know what? You don't usually have that with her. Her phone number is 480-964-4030. That's 480-964-4030. Hang tight. We'll be back in just a minute. We're going to keep on going in the room because we're
Yeah,
still alive.
yeah.
And in integrity, in accounting. And a lot of people do that, Anna. I mean, especially when you own a business and you're thinking, oh my God, I don't want to pay taxes. So what
Yeah.
deductions, and they start to do things that, you know, after a while, I'm sure you find, like, they'll be like, you know, listen, this is getting to be out of control, right? I mean, talk a little bit about that to me.
Well, you know, I had a wonderful mentor when I moved here to the Valley. That's how I got my business. I bought his business from him. And I remember he showed a couple clients the door. One client wanted us to change his financial statements to make them look better, but yet he still wanted to take the, you know, he didn't want to pay the taxes on that. And we was like, you can't have it both ways. If your financial statements look great, well, we need to report that as taxable income. And he's like, well, my bonding guy, because it was a construction guy, said I should do it this way. And I said, well, my boss said, well, you know what? If your bonding guy is advising you that, maybe he should be doing your taxes. So, and the guy kept pushing us on the matter, and he said, you know what? I'm going to give you your materials back and pay me for my time, and we're going to part ways. And my boss didn't flinch at letting a client go. And he told me, he said, you know, one thing, you're kind of a newer CPA. This was when I first started with him. He said, keep in mind, you spent a lot of time and money becoming a CPA. It's too precious for you to risk it on somebody's greediness.
Right.
So.
Right. And there's a certain amount that just you want to do everything on the up and up. And with Anna, that is what you get. That's why it's excellence in integrity in accounting. That's why she was nominated, I believe, twice.
Yes.
Is it for twice
Yeah.
now for the Better Business Bureau Torch for excellence, right?
Yeah,
and
the
integrity.
word for integrity.
That's
yeah.
awesome. I mean, that's a hard thing for people to get nominated for, let alone, yes, to win, but nominated too is about as high as up there as you can get.
Yeah. I want to win one of these days, but you know,
You have to send me the information again, and I'll send it out to them.
Yeah,
I did that one
okay.
time.
Anyway, but yeah, I just love that. It's just to the heart of who I am as a person.
Oh, absolutely, you can just exude that for
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, I'm kind of an open book. People know everything about me because I just don't see. I have nothing to hide. You know, I don't have any bad habits.
Well, aren't you lucky?
Yeah.
Hold on tight. Here we go. So welcome back, everyone. We are talking with Anna von Straussenburg. She's the owner of L. Anna von Straussenburg CPA. Yes, we talk about taxes and we talk about accounting all year long. A lot of people probably just finished up getting their business taxes done. If you're looking for somebody who is all about integrity and excellence in integrity and accounting, Anna is the person to call. Her phone number, again, it's 480-964-4030. That's 480-964-4030. She does free consultations. She works nationwide. She's rated with the Better Business Bureau. You can check her out. It's Arizona CPAs with an S.com. Now, before you came on, and I know I was going to bring it on, but now we're going to talk about, you said it's all about contributions.
Well, you know what? The end of the year is coming. A lot of people think about doing charitable contributions, and there's a few things you need to know. And, you know, it's a good tax planning tool. Some people, you know, when they have a little bit more money, they may schedule their contributions so that a lot of them fall in one year, maybe not so much the next, so that they can get the advantage of writing off the contribution as an itemized deduction. Because these days, itemized deductions are quite high, you know. It's over $24,000 for married, filing, joint, and probably up to 20. It's been indexed for inflation every year, so it kind of has been creeping up. And then, you know, I think individuals is around 13,000. So it's just been going up and up and up and up. And so what some people do is they'll give a whole lot in 1 year so they can get the itemized deductions, and maybe, so they'll do it near the end of the year so that the charity can get it, go, you know, have the money going into the next year, because they'll concentrate their contributions in 1 year over the next.
Yeah.
So that's one thing you can do, is do some tax planning that way. But there's also some rules. You can donate appreciated stock, which is a great thing to do, because if your stock is up in value, if you sell it and then donate the money, well, you're going to pay tax on that. But you can give the actual stock to the charity, get the fair market value donation. But of course, there's some extra rules.
There's always a caveat.
There's always a caveat. For some charities, you can only take up to 30% of your adjusted gross income, but that's quite a bit, you know. So, you know, but you can also, if you give more than you're allowed in 1 year, you can carry that over to other years. So that's another strategy you can do. But then there's also some rules. If you give more than $500, you have to, you know, tell the IRS when, the date that you gave the donation, what you donated, where you donated it. And so there's a special report that we have to put on the tax return. A lot of people don't know that. And so some people say, oh, I just gave $500. But, you know, you have to have proof that you gave that, documents. And any charity, if you give a donation over $250, they're supposed to provide you with a statement saying when and where you gave it, and that they provided no goods or services in exchange for the donation.
Gone are the days where you could just do those things. Today, everything has to be documented.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, listen, you should anyway, no matter what.
But document, document, document. And if you give something over $5,000, then you must have a qualified appraisal. And if you get a vehicle, you must have a special form from the charity you donated the vehicle for. So it's very important that you get proper documentation. If you're giving artwork, well, that has to have an appraisal. So you better, you know, contact your CPA for some advice on this thing before you decide to do it.
This is what I love about my show, is that people get to hear these things. Where else but on Networking Arizona you're going to know? And this is the time of the year where everyone's starting to, you know, do that. You have to do it before the end of the year. And, you know, if you don't ask questions, or if you don't just check things out, if you don't, you can make some big mistakes. And in this case, it sounds like you really help people with being able to make as many contributions, but also to do it in the right way.
Yeah, and you don't want the IRS coming back and saying, well, sorry, we're not going to allow your $30,000 contribution because you didn't have the right paperwork.
Then what happens?
And I have seen, you know, cases, you know, I get the newsletter from the IRS and from various organizations, and I have seen sad cases where people didn't get the right letter from the organization, and it must be contemporaneous, which means you've got to get the letter before you file your tax return.
I was just going to ask you if they can. So you see, listen up.
Yeah, if it's a one-time donation, the charity is supposed to give it to you within a month of the donation. If you're like at a church and you give monthly or weekly or whatever, then they can give you a letter at the end of the year of your total donations that list the dates that you gave those donations. And that's very important. And it's really important for them to have that phrase, they call it the quid pro quo, that they gave you, that you didn't get any specific goods and services for that donation. Otherwise, so if you give for a gala dinner, that's also a fundraiser, well, you're getting food. So when you get that gala dinner, only part of it's deductible. So
who would ever know? I never even thought
so
of it.
if your dinner is actually worth $25 and the plate and the table price was $100 per person, then you only get to deduct $75. So you've got to take into account. And good charities will always tell you what that amount is. So.
Not only would a good charity, but a good CPA is going to help you understand what to do right. And this is what I love about Anna.
Yeah, that's correct. And it's very important to do that. it's this time of year and you want to, do your tax planning, because if you don't tell your CPA until after the end of the year, it might be too late. So call your CPA now. If you don't have a CPA, call me.
Her phone number is 480-964-4030. That's 480-964-4030. Tax planning, I mean, what are some of the other things that they need to think about?
Well, you need to think about if you're a business, if you're an individual and you have one of those cafeteria plans, you also may want to think about planning, if you have medical expenses you need to use before the end of the year, or if you're maybe going to have a big medical deduction and there's something you need to have done, that's a legitimate medical thing. If you can plan to do it before the end of the year, sometimes you may be better off.
There's a lot of people who have side gigs today.
Yeah.
A lot, and they've either had more than one business that they run, or that they're doing those network marketing or multi-level marketing. A lot of people are doing them now for extra money. Those are considered a business.
Yeah, and it's important to, like I said, it's document.
Mm-hmm.
Document how you're advertising your business. Do you have a website? Do you keep a separate bank account? And if the IRS audits you and they see this MLM on your Schedule C, and especially if you're getting a loss, they're going to want proof that you're operating this as a business. And one of the first things they'll ask for, do you have a business bank account? And that's very important. I went through some audits with clients. That was the number one thing they asked for. Do you have a separate business bank account? Because that means you're showing it as you're really treating it like a separate business, not as part of your personal life. Because you can run into what they call hobby loss rules. Some people, big one is like people that have horses. Sometimes they do use the horses in maybe some kind of business thing, but maybe it's not a full-time business, and you need to prove, does it rise to the level of a true business, or is it just a hobby? And so
how do you go about that? Let's say how do they do
the
that?
big thing is you prove that you're doing advertising, that you are trying to make money, and a lot of businesses do lose money, the first 3 years. That's a very normal thing. And so you want to show what you are doing to improve your business.
And that's where Anna can come in and look over. That's where you come in and can do that consultation for them, and you talk to them about all of their businesses and help them make sure, because the last thing, nobody wants to be audited by the IRS.
Yeah, but you want to make sure that you've got your records and your documents prepared just in case.
Just in case.
Because when they do come in, you don't want to be scrambling last minute to find your documents. You want to have them all ready.
Now, her phone number is 480-964-4030. That's 480-964-4030. We did talk real quickly, too. I brought up that you do second opinions all the time. A lot of people try and do their own taxes. We say, no, please don't do that. Let's go ahead.
Well, every time I've done a second opinion, I have always found money for the clients. They have, either shown the wrong basis on some stock sales, particularly when they've had incentive stock options and things like that. That often is misreported on the documents you get, and you need to find your documents from your employer as to the value that you were given at the time, because most of those times that amount also goes into your W-2, so you don't want to pay extra, you don't want to pay double tax.
Well, she's all about excellence and integrity in accounting. She stands by her work, and you know that when you have Anna doing it, you're going to become partners in doing your tax returns and getting your business running to snuff. Again, that phone number to call her is 480-964-4030. That's 480-964-4030. It's ArizonaCPAs.com. Did you like that one?
I did. I was struggling